For those who haven't joined us previously, essentially London Tech Leaders is a growing platform for heads of transformation leaders, CXO kind of level, board level discussions. And it's an opportunity to discuss the latest industry trends in the market, challenge conventional thinking. But when we go back to kind of in-person events, it's a real opportunity to network with your peers, where you might not get to do so on a day-to-day basis.
It'd be interesting to see what the other panelists have to say on this. The thing I'm finding hardest is I suppose there are two things. One is being a leader remotely. So I can't gather people into a room. I've not even met my direct reports face to face yet. And so actually doing some of those things that you would normally do in terms of leadership become a little harder. I do now a Friday thoughts thing where I just pop some, personal notes and things I've done the week to try and kind of connect to people, but it is a little harder. I think the other thing that I'm finding more challenging, particularly given the role is a brand new one, I have to create a brand new IT strategy and vision. I've got no one to whiteboard with. I've got no one to kind of bounce the ideas off. And so I am honestly finding it a little harder. And that is partly down to my personal style. I like to bounce things around, groups of people and talk with people rather than go away and lock myself in a room and think deeply about stuff. And it is harder, and so I'm having to find sort of more creative ways of doing some of those things, sketching up some stuff on a fairly hokey tablet, and then sharing it with my team to talk to them. So you have to be a bit more creative. I would say it is genuinely a bit harder, and so give yourself more time.
Okay, cool. So any of our other panelists got any tips for Niamh there on leadership engagement in a remote environment?
Yeah, I was just listening intently to what you were saying, Niamh, and I can it resonated with me in my experience, certainly of my onboarding to the Department for Transport and doing interviewing on online, as it were. But the only thing I was going to say is I recognize some of the challenges. It's a lot easier for established teams to just carry on in a remote environment because they know each other and they've worked together for a long time. So that's a lot easier. But when establishing new teams, I'm working with a company at the moment, helping them with that particular question, is about having the time to sit down and agree a strategy for how to do that. Be able to look at how the organization works, the culture within the organization, what works for the individuals. And I'm a bit like you, Niamh. I like whiteboard, and I like to have kind of that face-to-face interaction. But in the absence of that, what potentially technology tools you can use, what online face-to-face interactions online, as it were, that you can adopt, but in a structured way where people can understand what would work for them individually, and be able to do that on a one-to-one basis as well as within groups. And that seems to work reasonably well.
That's some great advice in there. Phil, I'm going to come to you to ask more about the sort of onboarding new people. So not how you engage as a leader, but how you onboard new people. But before I do, I just counsel you to make sure that with your onboarding policies in lockdown is that you make sure that you agree them across all of your hiring managers. I recently had a situation where one of my direct reports hired person A into their team and another hired person B into their team. And one of those managers sent an introductory bottle of wine and the other one sent an introductory case of wine. And that in itself caused pandemonium because it was complete inequality across wine distribution. So whatever your choice of onboarding your staff during lockdown is, that's my top tip, is to get it right in terms of the ratios of wine being sent out. Phil, more practically, what are the things that your organisation has done to onboard people during lockdown?
Yes, I think just make it personal. I think there's a lot of good advice. You've just covered some of that with things like care packages and make them feel part of the brand and the organisation they're coming to. I think IT have been doing this for a while in terms of onboarding offshore organisations to work with and bringing that through in terms of this is who we are, this is what we do, this is how we work. you know, put a team meeting in. I mean, I literally every week now have a team meeting, so that if anything, you uptick the engagement, you uptick the FaceTime with people, just to try and maintain that engagement and accept the fact that everybody is different. Some people want to turn on the video, some people will have a background, some people won't want any of that, they'll just turn up on the speaker. It's down to the individual. We found tools. There's one, I'm sure there's others out there. I personally have used Miro, M-I-R-O, online whiteboarding and group collaboration. That's worked really well. So I think, coming back to Niamh's point about being innovative, trying new things, not being afraid to say, look, we'll try this tool. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we'll try something else. You've got to keep trying that evolution.
Okay, I've used Miro as well. I think that's a really great example. There's a few out there, but Miro seems to have got its interface well. What about from our audience? We haven't had any questions on this. I mean, maybe not questions, but anybody got any opinions in the audience on sort of tools or techniques to use? It would be really great if each of us could go away from this and try something new with our teams over the next few days based on suggestions from the audience. So why don't you, I'm now going to be inundated with suggestions, you watch, but why don't you give us a few of the more innovative ones? I myself have tried a few different things. I have a regular touch-in, not every morning. We did it every morning and found we were sort of staring each other in the eyeballs, but with my team, I have a sort of every other morning we have a 15-minute touch-in, and we just ask how everybody is, and we ask about how the teams and stuff like that. We don't talk about the projects, we don't talk about the work. We just sort of have a water cooler moment, you know, that sort of thing. And I think whoever solves the water cooler inspirational, just accidental engagement from a remote thing, I think that'll be really, really useful. Steve says Miro's good. Jamboard, Google Jamboard works well too. I think they've got a good mobile app as well on Jamboard. Lolita, agree on the emphasis on the uptick or over communicating, collaborating once a team policy of work from home has been set. She likes Mural, is another very well designed tool for team-based settings. Fun Retro are great tools. Peter Curtis is saying that. I find Fun Retro really supports remote retrospectives incredibly well. That's a good one. Might give that a look. Thank you, Peter. I have an onboarding buddy mentor to help new starter. This is something that I think that does translate from your existing business. To pick up on the point you made, Phil, we already do a lot of that, you know, particularly in technology and. Certainly in Naked Wines, we have a buddy system where you're assigned a buddy, and we try not to make it, if you're in technology, we try to make it somebody from marketing. If you're in marketing, we try to make it somebody from finance, you know, to really mix it up, and so you can get all the gossip on your team as well. And that transfers, and we've upped that and changed it to a remote buddy system, and that works pretty well. Okay, great. We're getting some good feedback. I'm sure you guys can read these as we go. All right, let's move on. Phil, so recent shifts in customer engagement. Is this something that we should be looking to do? You know, COVID's changed the way that customers engage. You know, in your industry in particular, there's quite a lot of change there. Should we look at changing our existing business models? Do we need to really, or is it all just, it's a glitch, it'll be over soon, just stick with a plan, you know, no need to adapt? What should we do there?
Oh, look, I'm not a medical expert, right? But I do not have Trump's confidence in the arrival of a vaccine in the next couple of weeks, as was announced last night. This appears to be going to be around for a while. And from what I understand in terms of the pipeline of SARS and MERS, these coronaviruses that hop, you know, the frequency potentially, this is a thing that's around for a while to come. That aside, you know, we've had some of these tools for a very long time. You know, we've just never used them. And I think we're just now figuring out how to work in a new world. For me, customer engagement is absolutely key. Nobody knows what it's going to look like next year, because the things that we might have thought about from a, you know, fingerprint recognition for access, well, that's probably blown out of the water in a zero touch pandemic world. So rethinking some of the plans that we had and adapting to whatever local lockdown, national lockdown, new rules, new regs, new consumer behavior, I think is going to be incumbent on our technology estates, and it's going to be dependent upon industries. You know, that contactless ordering was already coming through in a lot of market high street places. The Deliveroos, Uber Eats, click and collect were already in place. Now the acceleration of those across any brand is you know, far more significant. I think if you're in an industry where, you know, step one is register the consumer, step two is send them lots of paper to sign, that process fundamentally has to shift pretty quickly, or the regulations have to shift to allow the industry to survive in a remote working future way of consumer engagement. And that's just about us as IT leaders, technology leaders, business leaders adapting. And it is going to be that adapt, change pipeline of the future, I think.